Hello, I'm Shazza and welcome to my channel Hooked on Books. Today I have done a little bit of a cull of my bookshelves. I was looking at them and they were packed and it was stressing me out because I've got this whole list of books that I want to get, and I was looking at all these books that have been sitting there for ages that I haven't read or I have read, or books that just don't mean as much anymore, and I thought, you know what, it's about time that you went through your bookshelves and you got rid of some. Which isn't something I do very often. In fact, the first time I did this was like merely a couple of months ago, and that was only because I moved house and I realised how difficult it was to transport all of the ones that I owned. So if I ever move house again, which is likely because I live in London, therefore I'm moving every few years, I can't own as many books as maybe I would like to. So I have gone through my bookshelves and I kind of just find it interesting to see what my process is in terms of choosing what to get rid of. One of the first benefits of doing this is I managed to find 2 bookmarks, which, you know, I'm always running out of bookmarks. I always wonder where they go, and now I know they go in the books that I don't finish. The first book I'm getting rid of is this one, which is I Let You Go, and I'm not really getting rid of it because this isn't actually mine. I borrowed this several years ago from my sister. I got it and I thought, you know, I don't really read thrillers that often, and this is maybe one that I was going to try because it's something that, you know, I'm always open to try new genres, and thrillers aren't something that I'm that well versed in, so I did think about this one, but having looked at it I just think that it's maybe not the right one for me. I know that it's tremendously popular, I know that she's got another book coming out this year. I just don't feel hooked on the idea of it, so I'm going to give that one back. The next one that I'm going to get rid of is this one, which I'm very sad about because I was really excited about this one. So this is actually the proof copy, which I was very grateful to get sent, but I just didn't end up enjoying it as much as I thought I would. So it's Queer City by Peter Ackroyd, who's obviously a well-respected, well-known, established writer, so I kind of expected high things, but I just thought it was a little bit fact after fact after fact, and I just didn't feel like I retained any of the information, so I wasn't really particularly fussed on it. I was still going to keep it, but I'm not entirely sure why. I think just because the subject is something that I am interested in, I think there's still that feeling of wishing that it was good. I mean, it's not bad, it's just, yeah, I'm not really that big into like fact after fact after fact. I mean, he's clearly done his research, which is great, so I do think that that's commendable, but it just didn't read that well for me. And I do also have this one, which I think I've showed on here before, which is How Gay Culture Liberated the Modern World, and I think that I might be more interested in that one, so I'll give this one a go instead. So yeah, I'm afraid this one is not going to stay on my shelves. The sad thing about this is because this is a proof copy, I never really know if charity shops will take it. I've definitely seen proof copies in charity shops, but technically they're not supposed to be sold. Maybe I'll pass this on to someone else who might like it. Next up I've got this one, which is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is sort of a self-help type book. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which was a hugely popular book. And I just have had this for so long. This is another proof copy, and I feel like I got this like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I don't know, years ago basically, and I still haven't picked it up. And you know, I've always felt intrigued by it. I think that it's, you know, beautiful, bright coloured cover, and it's talking about creativity, you know, it's something that I think that might be interesting. It's maybe one that I'd maybe consider more on audio, rather than reading a physical copy, but I just feel like I don't feel inclined to get to it anytime soon, and given the fact that it's been on my shelf for ages already, I think it's time to let it go. So this is The Bricks That Built the Houses by Kate Tempest. This is again another proof copy, which I was super excited to receive because I love Kate Tempest. I've been to see her live and think she's fantastic. I love her poetry, I love her album, I just think that she's terrific. I absolutely adore her. She is someone that I really do respect. I just think this novel isn't one that I was particularly interested in. Writing is obviously very strong, very descriptive. You can definitely see Kate Tempest's sort of style and her voice. You can hear her voice in it, and I think that's great. It's this sort of intrepid London novels, definitely exploring ideas of the city, which she's really interested in. I just didn't love it, and I expected to love it. It's not one that I would ever feel inclined to read again. This one's definitely a tricky one to kind of get rid of, but I don't think I can justify keeping it either, so it has to go. Next up is this one, which is Diary of an Oxygen Thief by Anonymous. I also read the second one of this, which I can't remember what it was called, and I got rid of that a couple of months ago when I did my first unhaul, and now I'm getting rid of the first one. I saw this and just thought it was like weird cover. It's by Anonymous, and Then I read what it was about and I was kind of weirdly disturbed but intrigued, and I feel like that was my experience reading it. I found it really disturbing but intriguing. There was something enjoyable about it, but this is one of the most unlikable characters I have ever met in my whole entire life. And I don't know if it's based on truth or if it's the whole thing's completely made up, but it's basically about this guy who likes to hurt girls. So if I read like the first sort of paragraph here, you'll get an idea of what this book is. I liked hurting girls. Mentally, not physically. I never hit a girl in my life. Well, once, but that was a mistake. I'll tell you about it later. The thing is, I got off on it. I really enjoyed it. It's like when you hear serial killers say they feel no regret, no remorse for the people they killed. I was like that. Loved it. I didn't care how long it took either, because I was in no hurry. I'd wait until they were totally in love with me, till the big saucer eyes were looking at me. I loved the shock on their faces, then the glaze as they tried to hide how much I was hurting them. And it was legal. I think I killed a few of them. Their souls, I mean. It was their souls that I was after. It's basically just about this horrible guy who likes to mentally torture women. This is another one that I got sent as well. I'm noticing a bit of a theme here already. I'm getting rid of books that I didn't actually pay for. Is that what my process is? I guess that does play into it. The fact that, you know, how much money did you spend on that book? Sometimes it's hard to let it go because you think, oh my goodness, but I spent all that money on it. It seems like a waste to get rid of it. In this case, it's kind of easy because I have plenty of books that I didn't spend any money on. Although some of them here I did spend money on, but actually looking at them, most of them I didn't, which is hilarious because I didn't notice that until right now, until I'm doing this. The next one I'm getting rid of is The Subtle Knife by Philip Pullman, which may seem like a surprise because obviously he's a tremendously popular writer and I do like him and I do love his dark materials, but the reason I'm getting rid of this one is because I don't currently have the first one. I'm sure I lent that to someone, and the third one I don't own either, and I'm not particularly fond of this edition, so I feel like if I ever get them, I might get them in a nice sort of hardback fancy edition. I'm getting rid of this just purely because I don't own the other two really, and because I'm not that fond of the cover. This one. Okay, I know a lot of people love this series. I don't. Sorry. I mean, I don't think that I can say that fully because I've only read a tiny bit of this and that was about 6 years ago, and the reason why I've kept it for so long is because I was convinced that I just read it at the wrong time and that I should give it another go. But I just realised it's been 6 years and I still haven't given it another go, so am I ever going to give it another go? No. Everything about it seems like something I love. It's a fantasy, there's ghosts, it's set in London, you know, it just seems brilliant. I love the cover. But for whatever reason, I just didn't gel with it. I can't put my finger on it, and I know that I'm in the minority, and I'm sorry if I offend you, although I'm not really that sorry, but I just don't like it. Next up is this one, which is The Children of Jocasta. This is another one that I got sent to me. To be honest, I'm only really getting rid of it just because it's not one that I chose, and I think that it's probably an alright book actually. It's, you know, all I really know about it is that there's an element of Greek myths in here, which is something that I am interested in. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking this is going to be one of those books that ends up sitting on my shelves for years and years and years, and it's never going to be particularly high on my TBR, so there's no point. So I'm just getting rid of it just because I'm not overly familiar with what it is, and looking at it I'm just not too fussed. I'm sure it's an alright book. This is another one that I'm hoping to pass on to someone close to me, and if they end up liking it, then I can always borrow it off them. Next up is this one, which is another one that I have not paid for. I got given it by a customer actually. We were having a really good chat about books and stuff, and I was recommending some books, and he had this one in his hand, and after like a 20-minute conversation he just ended up giving this to me, which was very kind, and part of me wants to keep it just for that, but to be perfectly honest, I have to read all the other books in the series before I get to this one, and I don't really feel that inclined to do so. It's just sitting there gathering dust, and am I ever going to read it? Probably not, so I need to use that space for something else. I had never read any Lee Child, and one day I decided that I would give him a go, and that day still has not come. I bought this a few years ago, and I just don't care. I just don't care. It's not my thing, and I'm sorry, I just don't care. I mean, I'm sure he's great and everything, but he brings out books like every 2 fucking days. and I never feel remotely interested. Basically, I bought this book, all the proceeds went to Oxfam for Syria, and I'm about to donate it back to Oxfam, so it's going full circle. This is one of the ones I'm kind of unsure about, because I kind of do want to read this, but it's just not high on my TBR, and it never has been, and it probably never will be, therefore it just needs to go. One of my techniques that I use in order to help me to get rid of books is to look at what I own and imagine if I didn't own it, and think, if I saw that in a bookshop, would I instantly want to buy it? And this is one of those ones that I would see in a bookshop and I'd be sort of interested, but I wouldn't want to buy it. That is a reason to get rid of it. So, I mean, obviously Moran's a very well-known individual, you know, feminist, journalist, hilarious. I did read her book, How to Be a Woman, and thought it was terrific. This is actually a fictional novel. I still kind of want to read it though. But it's one of those ones, get rid of it, and if you really want to read it again in the future, just get it again. Next, I have two books. So this is The Rosie Project and The Rosie Effect. So this is the first one and this is the second one. I've had these for ages, and for some reason I thought I was going to really like them, which is why I ended up buying the two. I think it was just one of those ones that I saw as this perennial book that, you know, everyone loves and you should give it a go because everyone loves it, and this is like, stop caring about what everyone else loves and just read whatever you want to read. That's my attitude with this one. I mean, part of me is intrigued, you know, what's it about? Is it like, it's like a love story with someone Asperger's syndrome, is it? I don't even know what it's about. Why do I even own these books? They're not high on my list and they're probably never going to be, so I think it's time for them to go. Next up is this one, which is a big surprise because I absolutely love Kafka, and Metamorphosis is one of my favourite things I've read ever, but I just don't particularly want this edition, so I'd rather have Metamorphosis, The Castle and The Trial in separate editions rather than all in one collection. I mean, that's handy because I do really like all of the stories, but I'd rather have them individually and translated by someone else because I'm not sure how much I think that this translation's the best one. So I'm not getting rid of this because I don't like it, because actually I love it. I'm getting rid of it because I want to get a better version. Next up we have this one, which is The Last Act of Love, which is a heartbreaking true story about Cathy and her brother who ends up on a life support machine for a very long time. I don't feel the need to own it on a hardback copy. If I really, really wanted it, then I would just get it in paperback. It's not sort of special enough for me to want to own it on a hardback, and that's something that I think about a lot when I look at the books that I own. Sometimes I'm looking at the hardbacks and thinking, why do you own that in hardback? Just get it in paperback and, you know, save hardback books for like the fancier ones. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting rid of this because it's not one that I feel the need to own in this edition. I'm not sure if I really want it in paperback either. I feel like I've read it. It's not really one that I would read again, but it was a very good book. But yeah, just not one that I feel the need to own. Next up is this one, which is another one that I was kindly sent. This is Death of the Poets, and it's another one I was super excited about. I love poetry, and I'd been going through this phase in which I kind of wanted to know more about the people behind the poetry, so I thought that this was a good book to kind of learn about the lives and the lives of the poets, which is hilarious because it's actually about the deaths of the poets, but it just didn't read that well, and I don't think I've really remembered anything. I just don't like this. I didn't like the structure of it. I think that the subject was interesting, but I just don't think that it was tied together particularly well. It was read on BBC Radio 4 again. Maybe it's one that's worth listening to rather than reading, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of this one, to be perfectly honest, because it's about these two guys basically who are travelling around and finding out this information, and really I didn't really care about that. I just kind of wanted to have the information presented in a different way, so it just didn't really work for me, sadly. This is one of the ones that I read years and years ago, and it convinced me that I was not a fan of Terry Pratchett, which has obviously changed. That changed in 2017, so just last year. And the reason I'm getting rid of this one is because I'm really looking to own the sort of older, smaller format paperback version, so I don't feel the need to own this version. Also, this is quite late in the series, so I'm not going to get to it anytime soon anyway, so I may as well just get rid of it and get the version that I want whenever it comes to that time. So those are the books that I'm on hauling. By no means do I particularly hate any of them, I just think that they just don't have their place on my shelf anymore. It is interesting to see that a lot of them are ones that I didn't necessarily choose, or there's some of them are books that I did choose but I didn't do enough research into them, and some of them are ones that were popular and I just got caught up in that and thought, well, I get that because it's popular, and then I've looked at it and realised, you know what, it may be popular but that doesn't mean that it's for you. So it is interesting to see the story behind why I might have got a book and how ultimately that ends up being the reason why I get rid of it. But I just kind of wanted to share my experience with you of getting rid of these books, and no shade to any of them because I don't necessarily think any of them are overly terrible. I just think that they might not necessarily have been for me. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. So those are all the books that they've just fallen over.